have free will because I think we are physical things, and physical things don't dictate their own motions. Like every brain, like your brain states are altered physically by physical forces that don't in and of themselves have free will, and your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your whatever are the product of that bottom up, mindless, unconscious, sorry, determined causal chain of events, and there's no room for any free willness in there. Also, nobody's ever been able to describe what the heck free will is even supposed to be.
Freedom of choice. I can do whatever I want.
Well,
Whenever.
okay, sorry. Maybe that was a very dumb way of putting it. What exactly is it that grants you free will?
Probably. It's a good question. Probably, if I would. It's a good question. Um, I don't know, because maybe animals. I would say animals have free will, but they don't know they can exercise it. So maybe sentience, like real consciousness. I don't know. I don't know what the right word would be.
So we have real consciousness, but but they don't.
Mm,
I don't really
I
get
guess, yeah,
that.
probably self-awareness allows you to have ultimate free will, but I mean, technically, any animal could have free will. Any pit bull, if it really wanted to, could, if it was tamed by one family, could go upstairs and unalive everyone upstairs, if you know what I mean. So I feel like
I mean,
everything that has not a conscious, but everything that can perform physical actions probably technically has free will, even though it doesn't know it. That probably is what
well,
separates
I mean,
humans.
but trees can do that, but they don't even have a nervous system.
Trees can do what?
They can act, they can do things. They grow, they change their they
Yeah,
they they
they're
change
inanimate.
like
They're
their
inanimate.
structure in order
I would say
to
that trees
take
have
advantage of the most amount of
definite.
sunlight, all kinds of cool things.
Yeah, but that's an inanimate object. But I would say that plants are also definitely alive. They definitely possess some sort of consciousness. They might not have free will to have actions, but that's why a human is different than a plant. That's why I think that I don't know. I just feel like
Um, okay. What game are you playing?
right now I'm playing Fortnite. I just played it.
Oh, sounds like, yeah, you're building. I can hear it.
Yeah,
Um,
table.
okay, well, I just haven't really heard anything that sounds like a compelling argument that free will exists. I mean, it's just sort of like some assertions that
Well,
plants don't have it.
regardless of your brain chemistry, can't you do whatever you want right now? Because your brain chemistry can be saying one thing, but you can
Yes, the
completely go
the
like
illusion is there, but where do those thoughts and actions come from? They come from a bottom up process
I mean,
that's influenced by prior
science does
states.
not have an explanation for consciousness. So I would argue that
Neither
that's not
does
true.
neither. Yeah, nobody has an explanation
Yeah,
for it.
exactly. So you can't say that everything in the brain is coming from some sort of chemical reaction. It's not. If consciousness can't be, I don't know.
What? Have you ever drank alcohol before?
Of course, but like I said,
Does it alter
if you
your
can't define
conscious state?
conscious, of course it alters your conscious state. But if science can't define consciousness, then we would not be able to.
But before Albert Einstein, we didn't know why the laws of gravity. Uh, we didn't have an explanation for gravity. We could just
Bro, be pausing, man.
okay.
Real, I am
Can
cooking.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you? Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. My phone, something popped up. So, like for example, before Einstein, we didn't have an explanation for gravity, like what actually is the cause behind it. But we could explain it mathematically extremely well, right? But that
We
didn't
still
mean
don't know
that
what
there was
gravity. We
some
still do not know what gravity is. Like to this day, as much as we know about it, we
what?
literally nobody knows. Nobody can fully explain gravity. Nobody can explain what
What
gravity
is
is.
that? What does that mean?
Try and explain to me gravity. Besides for saying that it forces things to come down. What is gravity
It's
in
the
itself? Where
event
is
of
gravity?
massive
Nobody can pull gravity and create gravity. Nobody truly knows what it is. If we knew what it was, we could, I don't know, alter it a little bit.
gra-
If we don't know
but we
ultimately what force it is, we definitely do not know what gravity.
do you want a question for this, or do you want an answer? Um, so gravity, objects with mass warp the space time around them. We've known
100%.
that for a really long time now.
Okay, but what is gravity? Besides for what it does, what is it? Besides for it being a
I
force, don't
just told
describe it
you.
generally.
So
Give me something
gravity
exact.
isn't
Like I
made
can
of
tell you that
things.
I can tell you
If you're
that
asking
the
me to get you a
nucleus is
jar
a
of
part
it,
of the
that's not
cell.
how
But
it
that's what
works.
gravity does.
David, you can't. If you're asking me to get you a jar of gravity, that's not what gravity is, and
So
that
what is it?
wouldn't prove anything either. I can't get you a jar of electromagnetism either.
But it must be a force of some sort with energy and everything.
It's not a
If it has
force.
so much effect, it has to be.
No, it's not. Physicists have known that gravity isn't a force for a long time.
How do they know if
Um,
they can't even sample what gravity is? They literally, like you said, you can't put it in a jar. So how would they know? They're just doing equations. Equations doesn't mean it's the ultimate truth.
if the equations correspond to reality in a very successful way, it means we have an accurate model.
But we still do not know what it is. We can be very close,
Yes,
and you can.
we know what it is. It's like you're demanding that I get you a piece of gravity, and if I can't do that, then it's not real. But what if that's not how it works, right? So I can't get you a bucket of sound. Does that mean we don't know what sound is? No, we do know what sound is. It's pressure waves in air or water. Really, technically, like a sound wave can travel through a solid material too.
Yeah,
But
nobody can measure gravity. You can measure sound.
yes, you can. What are you talking about?
How can you measure gravity? You can measure some.
Well,
You
you
can
can
measure how
measure the
something is
effects
getting
that it
affected by
has.
gravity, but it's always how much something weighs, the mass and density, like you said. It's not gravity in itself.
Do you think the Earth is flat?
I do not know what the Earth. I'd say that we're on a globe, but I would say that the plane that all of us humans are on is probably most likely flat. But I would say we're on a globe. That's the thing with gravity.
How does that make any sense?
It's a much longer debate and a much more sophisticated debate than for this TikTok live. I would say.
No, I have faith in you. Go ahead.
I don't think I could articulate it well enough, and I think it would require you to speak many languages, like Hebrew and Arabic, which you do not speak, and I do speak fluently. I speak both these languages. I've learned in many, many yeshivas. I've learned in many schools. So I would say that through my readings of
Oh
religion, that
man,
some,
that's
something
hilarious.
something exists that's not the globe. I'd say that it's a globe, but I would say that where all the people are, this is probably a flat plane.
That makes zero sense.
That's fine. I would just say that you 100% have free will, like I said, because no matter what your brain chemistry is, you can still go against it. So I'd say that inherently disproves that we
Give
don't have
me
free will.
any evidence that anybody goes against their brain chemistry.
If your brain chemistry is any evidence that your brain goes against, okay. So then my question to that would be, what's an example where somebody's brain chemistry is controlling their free will? And then I will be able to rebuttal.
I don't think that there's such a thing as free will. So, anyways, don't
So,
don't say
where
I
does
know you are,
somebody's
but
brain
what am I?
chemistry control what they
You
do?
made the claim, so
Yeah, where does somebody's brain chemistry take away their free will? What's an
you
example
don't
where?
have brain chemistry doesn't take away your free will. You don't have free will in the first place.
But your point was because of brain chemistry in our brains. It's just a.
No, this was your point.
You said our brains have chemical reactions, and that's why we don't have free will.
I didn't say that's why. Um, like you could boil it down just about to that. But David, you're the one that said people can go against their brain states, their chemical states in the brain or something like that. So give me an example of that. What would that look like? What evidence of that do we have?
I guess it didn't come out how I wanted it to sound, but if somebody was extremely depressed and their brain chemistry was, and they were experiencing depression, I think they could still be happy.
Okay, how would that happen?
I don't know how that would happen. It would be a hard question to answer. That's like asking
So
how to
do you think
quantify that.
that mental states are caused by brain states?
Wouldn't that be redundant and be the same thing? A brain and a
No.
mental state?
No.
I
God damn
would
it.
say that mental states
Maverick's
are not
lost.
caused by brain states personally. I'm just
Then what is responsible for mental states?
um I don't know how to have a very 3D question with a 3D conversation with you. What is responsible
There's no
for
such
brain
thing
phase?
as a 3D conversation. So, like, if you don't know, then just say you don't know. It's not that big of
I
a
would
deal.
say that it would
I'm
be.
not gonna sit here and be like,
I'm just trying to
herder, you
dumb
don't know
down the answer. I'd
anything.
say that it'd have to be more energy and a lack of perception of that energy, because all energy would be stimuli. So I feel like people do not know how to digest and reflect on a lot of the things they come across, and it opens the door for them to be affected by such stimuli. So I would say that that's how mental states are affected.
So that just sounded like new age healing. Here, I wrote this book of nonsense and I'm selling it
No,
on
but it's
Amazon
not.
for a
I'm just
hundred
pointing
dollars.
out the
You
example
won't be
you're
happy
talking
in
about.
life unless you buy this book. Buzzwords, buzzwords, buzzwords. That's all that sounded like.
But it wasn't, so you didn't pay attention.
Okay,
Was it too
then
fast for you?
explain how any of it works.
Like I said,
If you
it
can't
would be
explain
like I said. I would have
something
to have a
that's
little. Yeah, but like this is the same thing. You can't explain gravity, so it's a little bit of a something you can't put it in a jar, but it exists. You know, just like gravity.
yeah, except we can explain we can explain what causes the gravitational effect, objects with mass. It's literally measurable. You can measure the gravitational constant. Henry Cavendish did it like 200 years ago, more than 200 years ago, like more than 250 years ago, I think, for example. The ideas behind what gravity does, those are testable and repeatable. You know, like Arthur Eddington did it when he took photographs during the solar eclipse, and there were some people in South America that did it too at the same time. So, with this, whatever is producing conscious states, if you say it's energies or whatever, okay, what kind of energy? What's the frequency?
I was labeling energy as stimuli, like I said. People get
Okay,
affected
so
by it. You
okay,
know,
so stimuli such as what?
me telling you you're an idiot, would that be stimuli for your brain? If your best friend told you, you know what, I think you're a fucking loser, that would be stimuli.
Okay, like don't get personal,
No, no, I
but
know. I'm just giving you an example, like straight up.
okay, sure. Can sound impulses be stimuli? Sure. Then what
Consent.
happens? So did I choose those sound waves? And am I going to choose the way in which those sound waves create action potentials in my nerves, and those action potentials go through my nervous system, and the nervous system then controls for the release of certain hormones? Am I going to choose any of that?
Well, let's use the example I used of your best friend telling you that they hate you and they don't want to talk to you again.
I literally everything I just said would be the next steps in that.
So then once you hear them and it runs its course through your nervous system, couldn't you change how you really perceive it? And then
Yeah, but how do you make a decision like that?
you're conscious.
What does that mean?
You're conscious, the thing that science can't define. You're conscious.
So you think that mental states are this completely different thing that exist in their own realm, and those meant that consciousness, whatever it is, changes the physical world through your body and your brain in certain ways.
100%, because we're spiritual
Okay,
beings.
then how is that free? If I'm being manipulated by something
You're not
outside
being
of my
manipulated.
body, and
You're not being manipulated.
it
I guess
fundamentally
you could call it
changes and causes
self-manipulation if
effects,
you really
in
wanted
what
to
way
call
is
it
that free?
self-manipulation. You could call it self-manipulation if you wanted, but it would just be changing yourself. I don't think it would be manipulation
Yeah,
at all.
in what way is that free? First of all, like the
Because
big
you have the
question would be,
freedom
why should I even
like I
think
said, if you
this?
want to
But
call it self-manipulation, you have the freedom to self-manipulate. So I mean, it would be free. You can
do
call
I?
it. I would say that self-manipulation would be a poor definition of it.
Okay, in what sense do you do that freely?
When I talk to myself and change how I feel about things, that's how I do it
You're
freely.
just begging the question. I'm asking you, in what sense is that free? And you're just saying, I freely do it.
Yeah, that's pretty free to me. I mean, I can do it and I cannot do it if I want to. It's free.
That okay, that's question begging. I don't know if you realize it or not or whatever.
I think the
But
question was a
anyways,
little poor.
even if even if this supposedly was actually like a good argument, I could make the argument that, well, the reason we don't have free will is because there's a bunch of invisible microscopic fairies, and they wear steampunk outfits literally all the time. The only time they actually don't wear them is on Halloween. It's kind of funny, and they're actually like nanobot magical fairy steampunk outfit wearing things, and they go through our bodies and they manipulate matter within us. So I could make that claim, and it would be it's the reason why. Now, why should anybody believe that? I can't give anybody a reason to believe that. So that's an example. Why should I believe what you're saying? Or what makes your explanation good?
It's not what I'm proving. And if you used fairies as an example, I would start dying of laughter and say, you sound really
I
unintelligent.
literally said that was just an example of an explanation. Like, there's an explanation behind it. I
Yes,
explained it,
and in that
but there's no
example, I
reason
would
to
start dying of laughter.
believe it. So I'm asking you, why should I believe what you're saying? Can you
I'm
give
not
me
trying to teach
any?
you. I'm just disagreeing with your life. It says join in if you disagree, not join if I want to preach to you until you believe me. I don't care if you believe me. I could care less.
Like, are you incapable of giving me a reason to believe you?
You're not willing to change your mind. Like I know, like it's totally fine, and I
Well, I don't
really
have free
don't need a
will, so I
reason.
can't
It's not like
change
I
my
have a
mind.
reason.
And
And
you
so,
can't
why
present an
should you
argument
change your
either
mind?
because
I
you
don't know.
don't have free will.
I would hope. Here's my reason for why you should change your mind. I would hope that you would be able to level up from this very three-dimensional way of thinking and accept that the world is much bigger than the Big Bang, and um, that's what a lot of people would like you to think. So you live a very pointless life without God, and it's very unspiritual. So you end up dying, and they want you to think you're on a big floating rock and you have no purpose, and that's it. So my preach to you and why I think you should change your mind is so you could live a fulfilling, very meaningful life instead
Are
of a
those
very.
kids like being tortured, or are they having fun? I
I'll
can't
turn my
tell.
camera on. They're all laughing.
No, please don't do that.
Mhm.
But anyways, so again, that wasn't an argument or a reason for me to believe your claim. Are you just not
Like I
capable
said, my
of
reason for you, aside from
backing
the
up your point?
argument, would be that I would hope that you could level up your way of living, and that's it. There's no reason. Could you give me a reason on why I should think the Big Bang is true?
Yeah, we can observe the universe expanding. We know this. It's been known for over 100 years.
How is that a reason on why I should believe it? That same thing. It's not a reason as to why I should believe it.
Scientific
That's a poor
evidence
question, and it's not even a thing. It's not how arguments should go.
scientific evidence is not
You,
a reason to
what
believe
if
something.
science, since it was created, not created, since science has been starting to be observed, what if science is doctored in many ways? So people like you will just believe what they see, and they'll just move on with their lives and not question many things.
What if people like you are so full of their own bullshit that they can't tell the difference between the reality they've
I'm
constructed in
open
their
to it.
heads
I've
to
lived
make
a life
themselves
as an
feel
atheist. I've
important?
lived a life as a
What
Christian. I've
what
lived a
what
life
if
as a
what if
Jew.
that's
I've
what's
lived a
going
life as a
on?
Muslim. I'm open to that being the reality.
Sure. So science is done by countless different people. It's a self-correcting system. Things like mistakes that have happened in science have only ever been uncovered by other scientists doing better science. There have been some instances like of journalism kind of helping out, but in the end, really, science is kind of a necessary component in weeding that out. So, what are the
Science is,
odds?
of course,
What are the
necessary,
odds
but I
that?
would say
Hold
that a
on,
lot
I'm
of,
almost done, David. I'm almost done. What are the odds that any one scientist can be wrong about something? The odds are pretty good. What are the odds that everybody involved in the scientific process are all wrong in the same way? Absurdly low.
I would tell you, like I said, what if science has been doctored from the start and all you are believing that something makes sense? You can doctor an equation to add up to something.
I literally just answered that for you.
I don't think
This
you
is
did, no.
just random conspiratorial thinking,
I
and
would
it's
say that
not
your way of
it's not a
thinking is
justification for
conspiratorial,
anything.
and I would disagree with you.
Yes, it is conspiratorial. He said, "What if the science has been manipulated to make you believe in something?" That's a conspiracy, David.
I would disagree. I would say that it would be a conspiracy to not look into it further.
I know you are, but what am I? So
Anyways, it's been
why
a great
should
live.
do you think that like religious texts haven't been altered by people to
Of
push a
course they have.
narrative?
I personally would say that
So then
the
why believe
religions
in
that
the
I've
idea of
observed,
God?
no, well, like I said, if you really want to get into religion, I'm not the average Christian here. I've lived a life believing and
Okay,
speaking multiple
David,
languages, learning about multiple religions. Stick with me here.
did you come up
And
with the
of course,
concept
some
of God
religion.
by
I said stick
yourself?
with me here. And of course, multiple religions have had books that were doctored, but I would say that Judaism, for example, has its original scrolls that are multiple thousand years old. So I would say that the ones that are
No,
original,
there aren't any
no, they have
original
not been
scrolls. What
doctored.
are you talking about?
We have scrolls that are multiple thousands of years old. They have the
Yes.
original Torah in the Vatican. So I would say
No,
that
they
no.
don't.
Yes, they do.
Nobody has any clue when the original Torah.
Wait.
First of
Can I
all, the
talk to one
original.
of your
Well,
commenters? Spice Machine Zero. Keep commenting the same comment over and over again, man. Come on.
that okay. You're not talking to Ice Spice Mocha
No, I just
Latte
had to mention they're just
420
spamming
or
the same
whatever.
comment.
So
I
you're
find it very
you're
funny.
talking you're talking to Planet Peterson.
Oh, I know.
Um,
I'm just talking to your comment section too. I'm talking to all you guys. You got a bunch of cult followers in here.
that's fine. So uh, believing in God is an idea that's been passed down by people that have had agendas for thousands of years. So you stumbled your way into that magical thinking that has no justification or way to back it up in any way. But then the
It has
science, you
plenty of
just go,
justification.
what if?
It has plenty of. I have a book, for example, and it is of my last name, and it's about 3 inches thick. It's called the Luria Legacy, and we have from father to father, direct lineage traced to King David. Our last name's in the Guinness World Record book, and I would say that you don't know any of your ancestors who were practicing the science, and I know tons of my ancestors who have passed down all their teachings from one to
Oh
another. So I
man.
would say that mine is a little more concrete than yours. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what your grandfather believed.
Man, you should just hop on a plane and go to Jerusalem and be like, "Hey, I'm the heir apparent. Bow
No,
bow
I've
down,
I've been to
everybody."
Jerusalem. Yeah, a lot of times when people meet me, they're very fascinated by my last name. I don't mind. I'm a regular person. I'm very humble.
Yeah.
I know that last sentence didn't make me look very humble, and it's ha ha ha. But I'm extremely humble in my day-to-day life. I would love to prove that to you in any way that I could.
That's cool. Um, do you have any? I don't even know what to talk about anymore. Um, so do you just fundamentally mistrust most science, or
No,
what?
not at all. Most science I would agree with, and I would say that the Torah
So
also agrees with science. I
why
would say
why
that
not, for example, the
a
Big
lot of
Bang?
modern day science is specifically targeted to make people. I don't know yet. Like I said, we're going to see how everything unfolds. It's just hard to
What
debate
with the
about, but
Big
I would say.
Bang? We've been doing science on that for
Well, no, no. So the Big
decades.
Bang is different. We want to talk about the Big Bang specifically. I would say maybe the Big Bang happened, but I would say the Big Bang happened because God made it happen in order to create the world. And it's just poof. He made it
Sure, I
fun.
mean that's a completely different claim, um, and that isn't a claim that science has any interest or hope in working with. So, but I'm just like asking, like, so you just don't care if the Big Bang is true? You know,
I mean, it's not that I don't care. I mean, the Big Bang is not as fun to debate about as other things. But I mean, yeah, the Big Bang,
I
if it's
just I
true,
don't
it's true.
I
If
just
it's
don't
not,
get
it's
the
not.
I don't get the
I don't have
skepticism
skepticism
though.
about the Big Bang. I would say that the Big Bang happened, but I would say that God made the Big Bang happen. God made the big
Oh,
God. I would say that science is so, I don't know, what would the right word be, in unison? Science is so like interconnected, and it makes so much sense in a lot of areas. So I would agree that science is very, very good to learn from. And I would say that that is clearly divine intervention. That science makes this much sense, and I would say that it's not like a coincidence that the Big Bang happened, and now we have nucleuses
divine
and all these crazy things,
intervention.
and everything makes so much sense. I would say it's obviously curated by God.
And what's the evidence for that?
I would say the thousands of people a part of. What's the evidence for that? The evidence is everything. I don't even know how to explain that. The whole world is evidence. It's a spiritual world. All the people I've met, like I said, my whole family lineage. The fact that if you really want to, I don't want to start preaching Judaism because I don't want to, like, it's just not what our religion believes in. But I would just say that the evidence for that is very apparent in history.
The evidence is very apparent in history. Okay, okay, uh, okay. God doesn't exist, and I think the evidence is just pretty apparent throughout all of history.
So that's where I would say is that that's what the agenda of this world is, and it wants people like you to just easily write off their existence. Be like, yeah, I'm on a floating rock. I'm just going to debate TikTok lives, and then one day I'm going to turn 85, and my life was just my
Humanity
life,
has
and that's it.
believed in gods for the vast majority of its existence. The vast majority of humans currently also do that.
Yes, but
So
majority of
I, I'm
humans are
just gonna
believing
I'm
a
just gonna
false
take
religion,
your
which is
argument and say,
Christianity.
yeah, the whole
Majority of
God
people
thing,
are
that's
believing a
just
completely
people have
false
just
religion.
been people have just wanted that God believed to be widespread. It's just a big
Yes, no, but
brainwashing
that's one
campaign.
religion. I would say that the
It's
religion of
not
Christianity
objective in
is
any
utter
way.
utter nonsense. Christianity is laughable, and for example, in Judaism, it does not go advocate for missionaries and preaching. It says that if somebody wants to convert, you should deny them 3 times, and if they come back after 3 times, then that means they actually want to convert, so you should convert. So I'd say a real religion is not Christianity. So I'd say majority of people on this planet right now are massively fooled because Christianity is accounted for in Judaism. Also, the whole story of Jesus is in the Tanakh, which is written down, was the oral Torah passed down from generation. So I'd say, yeah, tons of people believe in a religion, but they don't know what they're believing in. Same thing, Muhammad. Do you think have you read the Quran? The Quran is crazy. I would say obviously these religions are created for destruction because this whole world
What
is
in the
in a big
Torah?
war.
What
What?
in the, okay? So here's the deal with how miracles work for me. I agree that the idea that the moon split in half, as is written in the Quran, is stupid and silly, and there's no reason to believe it. Uh, there's also, but for the same reason, it's stupid and silly, and there's no reason to believe that some guy walked on water.
You know,
It's
yeah,
stupid and silly, and
100%.
there's no
Jesus is a
reason to
meme. I
believe
agree
that
with you.
if you
Jesus is
carve
like actually a
sticks
meme.
and put it in the watering troughs of cattle, they will get stripes, which is in the Old Testament, right? None of the miracles of the Old Testament or the New Testament are
So same
even
thing. The New
remotely
Testament is kind of.
respectable.
I'm really sorry. I have to go shortly. The New Testament is totally false. It was created after. So it's called the New Testament. Totally false. Also, the Old Testament. Any Old Testament that you read is a translation from the holy language, which is Hebrew. So any translation that you're reading is not going to
Okay,
be
the
entirely
Hebrew
accurate.
the
So
Hebrew says that if you carve
the
sticks and put it in the watering troughs of cattle, they will grow stripes.
No, there is a story where that happens, and where God says, "If you put these sticks in, that will
In the
happen." But
Hebrew
in that
Bible.
specific situation, which was thousands of years ago, it doesn't say
So
anytime
you're
you do
saying
that.
Judaism is true, but the books of Judaism
No, you're not
aren't
understanding.
true.
I'm telling you
But the
that
reason I
specific
know it's
example
true
of
is
the
because
water
we have the
troughs.
original
The
scrolls of
specific
the Hebrew
example of the water
Bible.
troughs is
This
not
is the
saying that.
dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Listen, the specific example of the water troughs is not in perpetuity. It was one example where God, I don't remember who he told, said, if you do this, it will work because they did not have any water. It didn't say, this is what's going to happen forever. And that's why it was be a miracle. Then
Give
it's
me an
a
example
story.
of something in the Old Testament that's true.
Everything in the Old Testament would be true, but like I said, not the Old Testament, because the
That
Old Testament is
includes
a
that
translation.
includes
The
the
Old
sticks,
Testament
dude.
is a translation. If you could sit down and read Hebrew with me, then I would say that if you could find it once we read a very old Torah, then that would be real. Not the Old Testament. The Old Testament is a translation from a bunch of Christians who don't know what they're yapping about because they believe in Jesus, who was literally a hoax.
Didn't you say earlier I'm not your typical Christian?
I'm not a Christian.
I swore earlier you said I'm not the
I said I've
typical
lived a long
Christian.
life. Someone called Dan. Oh, I thought someone had my dad's name. I've never even met him.
Oh man.
um, um, I said I've lived a very long life, and I've observed multiple religions. I've moved around a lot. My
You don't
mother.
sound like you've lived a very long life.
I've lived a long life in experience. I've lived in many more places than you. I speak more languages than you, for example, and I have
How
been
many places
practiced.
have you lived?
I have practiced multiple religions because my family believed them at the time. So I've lived a very long life in content, maybe not length.
Okay. Well, I don't think we're really no, we're not going anywhere with this. So it
I'm not
was
sure.
fun talking to you though.
At least your comment section is. I would love to have every single guest on here so I can talk to each of them individually. It's very fun reading this. There's nothing non-humble about saying where I lived and that I speak multiple languages. It's just I'm giving how I know some things about religion. But I appreciate all the love and I appreciate the conversation. Have a great one.
I'll do my best.